places history cannot explain. Stories science still struggles to answer. And moments that refuse to be forgotten. Tonight, we step beyond the ordinary, beyond coincidence, and into the unexplained. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or simply searching for the truth, welcome to Strange Darkness Radio. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that refuse to stay buried. The truth is stranger than fiction.
And we are back. Welcome to Strange Darkness Radio, everyone. Welcome, Amy and Kyler. How's it going tonight?
It's going pretty good. I'm so happy to be back. Oh my goodness, it's been such a long time.
Yes.
It's actually been a few months,
forever.
I think, since I've been on the show. I took like a little break and I'm just so happy to be here with you guys.
Yes. And Kyler, Mike is not here, so Kyler is stepping in for tonight's show.
Man. I figured we're going to change it up a little bit. You know, Mike was like, hey, yeah, Kyler, man, you should just go ahead in there for a second. I'm going to go to sleep for a little extra time. I say, yeah, go ahead, Mike. Kick your feet up. Relax a little bit. Take some time.
Yeah. So yeah, Mike obviously will be joining us normally on the main show. But tonight we have a very interesting topic and book author. And but I want to say, I want to thank all of our listeners on YouTube. The YouTube channel has been growing steadily. I think we're at 55,000 subscribers, which is awesome because we need to put out more content on there for you all. And I want to thank our podcasters worldwide. I want to thank everyone for tuning in on all the streaming services. It's been amazing. And yeah, so the reason why we haven't been on, and I did have a couple of shows in the can that I did put up while we were out. And the little commercial stating that we will be back. I was dealing with some medical issues, nothing serious, but all that's been taken care of and doing good on that front. But while I was down, I did go ahead and finally do our website because it was, you know, I was like, why do we need a website? And, you know, because we have a Facebook fan page that everyone goes to. But I figured since the show is growing and we have all kind of different media avenues that we want to put out there, it was time to go ahead and put out a website. So hopefully you guys like it. It's my first stab at doing a web page. And definitely go check it out. It's strangedarknessradio.com. Very simple. And on there is various things. You can catch all of our shows, all the various streaming services. And you can go to our YouTube channel. It will show our most current shows and all that good stuff, which is cool. And I'm working on another portion of this. And I'm hoping I can get this all set up before this particular podcast goes live, to where I have a book author segment, to where all of our book authors who come on, they have a dedicated page to where you can go and check out their book. You can have more details about the particular episode, and it will show that particular episode that they're on, and along with their links and socials. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have that all ready to go. But yeah, definitely please go check out our website and all that good stuff. And I think that's it. You know, and on that, you can click on Mike's information if you have any news articles you want to drop or something you want him to cover. For Amy, if you want her to check out a particular movie, you can, which she should probably be telling you this because at least she's on. Mike's not today. But yeah, you can go and, you know, if you want her to check out a particular horror movie or you think something would catch her eye with that, or something that you would like her to review, you can leave that information for her creepy segment when it comes to questions and all that stuff. If you have one that you want her to, ask us and have us do, that's there also. So yeah, just go check it out. Amy, any questions about that?
No, I don't have any questions. I think you did a really good job, and I'm glad we finally have a website, and I think it's like a good way for people to get in touch with us. So I'm hoping that people are going to reach out and send us some questions, send me some feedback or questions, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from the people that listen to the show.
Yes, definitely. All right. So with that being said, it's time to get into tonight's episode. Here we go.
Over the years, Strange Darkness Radio has been fortunate enough to receive some incredible recognition for the work we do. In 2023, Strange Darkness Radio was named a finalist for Best UFO Podcast at the Parapod Festival, finishing as runner-up. And now, we're proud to announce another milestone. Strange Darkness Radio has been selected by FeedSpot as one of the top 100 paranormal podcasts on the web, currently ranked number 99 on their list. That's an incredible honor for a show that began with one simple purpose: to give people a place to tell their stories and to explore the strange, unexplained, and sometimes frightening things that exist just beyond our understanding. And none of this happens without you. Every listen, every subscription, every comment, every shared episode, and every person who has trusted Strange Darkness Radio enough to tell us their story. Thank you. If you're new to Strange Darkness Radio, or you've been traveling through the darkness with us for years, visit strangedarknessradio.com. Meet the team, listen to our latest episodes, watch the show, explore the paranormal with us. And if you've experienced something you can't explain, tell us your story. That's strangedarknessradio.com. Strange Darkness Radio. The truth is stranger than fiction. And apparently, we're not the only ones who think so.
There are moments when the world we know simply stops. When the boundary between the living and the dead becomes uncertain, and consciousness seems to slip beyond the body. Tonight's guest experienced such a moment as a child. His name is Kieran Stanislaw Mace, or, as we'll call him tonight, Stan. After a devastating accident, Stan says he found himself outside his body, walking unseen through the corridors of a hospital. And there, he encountered something. Something ancient, something seemingly infinite, and somehow familiar. An entity that appeared to know him. Stan would later recognize corridors and locations he says he had seen while outside his body. But that was only the beginning. Paranormal experiences followed him throughout his life, challenging everything he understood about consciousness, death, and reality itself. Those experiences became the foundation of his book, Paranormality, Normalising the Paranormal. But tonight, we aren't asking you to believe. We're asking you to listen. What happens when consciousness leaves the body? What or who might be waiting beyond the veil? And once you've seen what lies beyond it, can you ever truly return as the person you were before? Tonight, we sit down with author and paranormal experiencer Stan Mace to explore consciousness entities, near-death experiences, and the possibility that what we call paranormal may simply be part of the normal that we do not yet understand. Welcome to Strange Darkness Radio. The truth is stranger than fiction.
Stan, welcome to Strange Darkness Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, man, an amazing story, an incredible book. Please let our listeners know, about your story.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for that wonderful intro. That was fantastic to hear. I feel quite honoured, really. So, as you can hear from my accent, I come from Oxford. My stream or string of experiences happened in and around Oxford City, starting at the age of 5. So just give you an idea of my background. So I come from a mixed culture background, really. So I have Polish and Italian in my family, and a bit British as well. So we kind of all congregated around the centre of Oxford, kind of sharing our different parts of our culture, basically. So what I would often do is make my way to my grandmother's house to cook food with her. So she was specifically Sardinian, so I used to cook with her a lot. So that particular day, it was a spring day, and I was on the way to her house to do another cooking session, essentially, in Oxford. So I crossed the road with my mother, and at the time she was teaching me about road safety. So of course it's a red light means stop, green light means go. In that instance, it was green light for pedestrians to cross, red lights for car, of course. So I began to cross the road, holding her hand, but maybe a couple of steps in front of her, just thinking about my nonna, basically, my grandmother. I remember before everything started, something very strange happening. In my right ear, I heard a woman's voice saying, "You're not meant to be here." And the moment I heard this word, and I can see this as a video now, like everything that I'm telling you now, just to kind of give you a bit of context, I see everything. For some reason, I seem to be able to play this like a video, so I'm living this experience. So if you bear with me, it can get a bit emotional. So yeah, I remember this woman's voice saying what it said, and everything went black. For a moment, I felt like I was conscious, stood in this empty void. And I was there just for long enough to think, hang on a second, I was just in the road with my mum at the time. I began to kind of look around to see where anything was, but it just seemed to just go on endlessly. Like I was just barely lit under this light above me. And before I could begin to maybe take another step, I woke up. I was on the other side of the road. My legs were completely in a terrible state without going into too much detail. And I remember being in the most agonizing pain. Like it's a pain that's never left me. Because I'm 41 years old now. I'm getting old now. But it's a pain that's never left me that day, and it's something I can't quite explain to you guys. Like what it feels like. It's just in you forever, and you never will forget that. And at that time, basically a car shot through the red light and hit me. And I ended up going underneath the vehicle, and he decided to, maybe as a fight or flight response, continue to drive with me under it, causing more damage, which wasn't really a great decision, but people do make mistakes. But thankfully, the public were able to apprehend the driver, pull him from his vehicle to stop him from driving further, and of course, treat me at the other side of the road. So yeah, they called an ambulance over, and like I can see even now, like people just stood over the top of me. Like it's a really weird experience. Like it's like, yeah, there is the agonizing pain, but I felt like I was even then beginning to leave my body. Like I felt very disconnected from this moment. So yeah, the ambulance managed to get there and take me to the John Ratcliffe Hospital, which is like a roughly about 30-minute drive from that location to where it is. Maybe like a 15-minute ambulance drive because they can go through red lights, of course. But so yeah, I was rushed there, and I went through a number of emergency operations to stabilize my body. I'm not sure exactly which operation caused me to have this experience, but at some point I remember waking up again. So to me, like if I were to follow it in a linear fashion, like I was in the ambulance, I remember being in the ambulance, and then suddenly time seemed to just jump forward, and I was awake again. The strange thing was, to me, it felt like moments ago. My legs were kaput, just unusable. I was in pain. Yet I woke again and I was standing. And I noticed that the pain had completely gone. I was standing in the corridor. I recognized it as like a hospital hallway. And my instinct as a little kid was, where's my mum? And so I started this journey to try and find out where she went, where she was. I remember walking down the corridor and noticing that reality felt very strange. It's similar to the way I can see you now, but something was slightly off. Like I've described it before as like being solid light. It's like I could see the details, but something had a slight hue to it, like a reduction in opacity, maybe, and kind of colors that I couldn't quite comprehend. It's really bizarre. And started to walk down this corridor, and through the first door, I saw a kid in a bed, kind of all patched up and had all sorts of things going in and out of him anyway. But he was conscious, sat in his bed. I tried to, well, I waved at him to get his attention, and no response. And I tried to call to him, no response. And I thought, that's really strange. So I carried on walking down the corridor, and a couple of doctors walked past me, and I tried to get their attention, and nothing. I began to get more panicky as time went by because I just began to notice that something just didn't feel right being in this place. I saw a little girl in this room just a few moments later, and again tried to get her attention by calling out to her, waving at her. I was in her room, kind of like just trying to get her attention, and just no response. So feeling lost, I just kept walking through different corridors. I was walking past different rooms, storage rooms, down stairways, and I just felt like I was lost. It's like life forgot about me. I was outside of whatever this is, almost like as a human would be observing a zoo to look at the animals. It's almost like I was in the point of observation. Or if you play video games like no clip mode, if you guys will get the reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like that, basically, like I was just passing and passing, and I eventually found this room, and there was this doorway with a glass window. Something I felt like it was pulling me into this room. Like I noticed there are a few strange gadgets on this door. Like I would maybe now, if I were to look at the image now as an adult, it looks like some sort of security or something that was telling you to not go there, basically. But I was able to somehow pass through all this. And I eventually landed at this room, and I felt like gravity was beginning to shift. Like rather than gravity pulling me down, it was almost like it was pulling me towards this particular location. And yeah, this room, it kind of looks like a storage room, but to the right of me, I saw a room, a wall full of holes with all these metal doors kind of going quite close to the ceiling. So like row after row after row. And I in my mind, just assumed that there were washing machines. And as I was looking around, I saw like doctors' bits and pieces like glasses and cutting things and coats. And I just don't know what on earth they were. But I noticed something in that room was quite, I don't know, it's almost like a predator was in there, basically. Like I've described this paradox, and it's the best I've got to so far in explaining it. Imagine a room that felt like it was full of people, but it was visually empty. And it's almost like both concepts cancel each other out. Like I felt there was the presence of something incredibly vast and powerful, but in my sight, I could just see that nothing was there, and I couldn't quite comprehend what was there. But as I began to feel this presence of like this planet-sized something, I began to try to leave this room and felt like I just couldn't do it. So I couldn't break away. And that's where I began to connect to this entity for the first time. And it was like I was sucked into this black hole. When I entered this black hole, essentially, I felt like I was connected with the universe. It's like, imagine like just being absorbed into the internet, I suppose. It's like I was everywhere and anywhere. I wasn't just like the single person. I was in different places all at once. And this being, as it got closer and closer to me, I felt time was speeding up, and almost time itself was breaking, really. And like imagine like a VHS tape just speeding and speeding, like it's going so fast that the data download in your mind is not enough to be able to render those images. So I was seeing bits and pieces like planets and people that looked like people, but I wasn't sure even then if they were people, but beings of sorts. And I saw cities that I can't describe, like beautiful like landscape like locations with very strange colors. But eventually, like I managed to just get hold of that moment and slow things down and try to bring myself into a single location. And that's the first time where I felt like I had just a moment of control. And I found at that moment that I was flying, kind of, yeah, Superman style. As I was looking down, I could see this path kind of developing under me, and I saw these cement, like a cement stairway kind of slowly building up, and that's where I could see this train yard with this bridge going over. And I was just following this bridge along, thinking this looks really interesting. And at the time, it was new to me. It wasn't a place that I knew. I followed to the other side of the bridge and noticed these stairs that go down slightly, and then onto another bridge that is over this big, beautiful lake. And as I slowed down enough to begin to slowly land on this bridge, I noticed that I could see the dreaming spires of Oxford. So I began to recognize, oh, this is home, but another side of home that I don't know. So I began to understand my location for a moment. And as my feet touched the cement, I saw that there were these teenagers on the bridge, kind of like wearing like a tracksuit, like proper 90s style, basically. Just as I touched the bridge, this kid locked eyes with me. And it's a moment where I thought, they can see me. I'm here. I'm real. Then maybe this isn't a dream. But as we locked eyes, he jumped back, like he was shocked by something. He was visibly like shaken. And I kind of heard him gasp. And then at that moment, I lost control because he kind of made me jump as well. So I kind of lost that control of whatever that being was. I was thrust back towards wherever it was near the hospital. And that's where I experienced time speeding up more. And I felt this bizarre, like it's like a download of information, like information was being input into me. And I'm not exactly sure to this day exactly all of what it was. But it's like, an ultra compressed file. Like imagine a file that's like 700,000 terabytes large, and you don't quite have the physical processor to be able to unzip those files and to begin to analyze what was there. And that information was so great, I felt like I was being burnt out. Like it's just like, an overloaded fuse. It was getting hotter and hotter, and I was getting more and more panicked. And eventually, like I kind of almost like lost all hope. Like I felt like I was gone forever. Like during that, during me telling you this story, like time itself, it felt like I was out there for like years almost.
Yeah.
I was like lost in the ether. In some films, thinking about Insidious, they call it the further. In some books, they call it the Blue Island. It's like this intermediary place, like just outside of life. And to me, like I would describe this being like the old man at the edge of time. It's like he decides, or it decides, who goes and who doesn't. And as I began to lose hope, I began to kind of realize that this thing, it knew me. We've met a few times before, and that kind of only to me makes it even creepier. And this thing, I felt like I was so overwhelmed by this thing because, like, I wouldn't say it's like evil or anything, but because I couldn't comprehend the amount of data and the amount of energy and power this thing had, like, you go into almost fight or flight mode, and even without your physical body, you have that fight or flight instinct. It's really bizarre, but anyway, once I began to realize that, I kind of panicked even more. And after kind of losing hope, basically, all I could think of was, Mum, take me home.
Yeah.
And the moment I saw her face, I was like the most immense power, like maybe something more powerful than it, grabbed me and forced me all the way back to my body in the hospital. And I remember like the moment I woke up, like after this adventure, I was kind of looking around the hospital ward, like I saw my legs were in casts, like both my legs were in casts. They had like metal going through them. Like I had one leg that was suspended in the air. My arms were in casts. I had all sorts going in and out of me. So I physically couldn't have moved to explore the hospital or this other location. So in my mind, I just assumed it was a dream because it's easier to think of it that way when you're already dealing with the trauma of the physical trauma and the psychological trauma of an accident of that sort. But basically, like when I arrived, like the first face I saw was hers, and like I get really emotional telling you, so apologies, but it's like that was the first angel I saw when I returned. Like
Yeah.
my mum was there, and I realized like the only reason why I came back to life again, or back to this world again, was her. I couldn't have done it if it wasn't for her energy. And that's that's like super mum. Basically,
Wow.
she can help you from like the other side of life.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So yeah, like where it kind of lands in reality in my story, I went through a number of weeks of different like different, well, other operations like skin grafts, and I don't want to go into too much gruesome detail, but things to kind of connect bits and pieces together. Basically, it was
Exactly. When
horrible.
something that major has happened to your body, it's pretty
Abs-
catastrophic.
Absolutely. I joke sometimes I'm like a Frankenstein's monster, and it was at that point where the doctors were beginning to warn my mum, like saying like this kid's suffered major trauma. It's highly likely that he's going to have brain damage, and it's even more likely that he probably won't walk again. But we're gonna try our best, and we're still trying to connect bits and pieces to see if he can get his legs to move again. So yeah, that was quite a few weeks I won't ever forget, and massive thanks to the doctors and the nurses that helped me then. They were incredible. But anyway, a few grueling weeks later, I began to kind of feel a bit more better physically. Like I didn't have any emergency, machinery attached to me. I don't know what you would call it, to be honest. I'm not an expert like that though. But anyway, this nurse came to me, bless her, and said, "Hey, you've been doing really well. Like, would you like to go on a little?" She called it a joyride at the time. Anyway, do you want to go on a little? And she kind of appeared with this little wheelchair. I thought, well, hell yeah! Like, I've been in this week for so long. I've been getting like bed sores and all sorts. So I thought, yeah, definitely. So she managed to get me into the wheelchair with the help of a doctor as well, because obviously I was still quite heavy then. And yeah, the moment I sat in the chair, I just thought, this is amazing. Like, this is what living feels like. I remember this is what it's like to be alive now, like with a bit less pain. And as I began to enter the first corridor, that was just a short distance away from where my bed was, I got that funny feeling that I felt on the other side. And when I describe it, it feels like gravity, and often it feels like being pulled down from like where the solar plexus is, like the stomach is. It's like a pull down.
Hmm.
And that's where I felt as I began to realize that what I was seeing there exactly aligned with what I saw at the start of this adventure. Um, I began to get nervous then, and the nurse was beginning to like sense that I was feeling a bit off and just tried to kind of go with the flow kind of thing. As I continued on this journey, more and more things aligned. There was exactly the same kid that I saw in the dream to the right. Just a bit further down was the lady, excuse me, the kid in the room to the left, the little girl. And the lady kind of took me further down the corridor, and I was beginning to get more and more panicked as like the little like granular details that I saw in this experience, like even posters that I saw on the other side that were there, like odd cracks and stains. And I began to tell her, I want to go this way. And I was kind of directing her where to go on this adventure. Go left, go right. We went into an elevator a couple of levels down, told her to go here, go past the cafe, go past here. I just seemed to know exactly where I was going. And the strange thing is, in my body, if I was to be rushed into the ward, maybe I went past those areas, but I wasn't conscious, but at least conscious enough to be able to record that data. But I still wouldn't discount that memory could play into this, though. Like, but to me, like, I visited those areas without physically having a body.
Yeah.
And the crux of that segment is eventually we got to this area where it was like a more secure area where she couldn't take me further. And there was a security door at the end of this hallway, which led to an area that wasn't supposed to be in. I think it's where she began to realize, oh, I think I've actually taken this kid a bit too far. I kind of like maybe got ran away with it, because by then I was panicking more and more as I looked ahead. Through this doorway, I could see through the window and into where this other area was that I saw in the dream. And there it was, the area where I met this entity, the so-called washing machines on the wall, the bit different doctor's bits and pieces, the coats, like the exact layout matched perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I
Wow.
realized where I met this thing, it was a real place. I later researched this room. Of course, in that moment, I didn't know what it was, though, but I later researched this years later when I was beginning to come to terms with this experience. That room was essentially the first part of what the morgue used to be at the hospital. So not the main morgue, but there was like a first processing room before you go into the other section. So obviously that's why there's security there.
Yeah.
So this poor little kid ended up in the morgue of all
Oh my
places. So
gosh.
I do
Mhm.
kind of question, like, what is this entity basically? Is it consciousness formed from the pain and anguish of those passing, or just maybe lost spirits?
Mhm.
Could it be basically a psychological manifestation that I kind of made up, just to survive that ordeal? Because that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
But the fact that it aligned with reality, that's what spooks me the most and makes me lean towards, okay, this is in the paranormal realm, as in like the unknown. I can't define this just yet. And one day
Mhm.
I'd love to kind of figure this thing out. But this thing, like the power I experienced then, it's like unlike anything I've ever experienced. Like, there's a reason why my hair doesn't stay down. It's like it's not just a fashion choice. It just
Yeah.
won't really. But yeah, it's this.
Oh.
But yeah, it gets like, but this is just the beginning of the story. Like in like Paranormality, it's like it's such a long, grueling story, like kind of through these kind of tragedies that develop into something positive. But just kind of end like, part of the evidence that aligns with that. So after I had a complete meltdown in the wheelchair with that poor nurse, bless her, I kind of was sent back, and they assumed it was kind of PTSD, and PTSD did play a part of it. Though 100% did have PTSD. So I had treatment for that as I was finishing hospital. There's two more events that I'll never forget. Basically, towards the end of my time in hospital, where I was just eager to go home. I just needed to be signed off. And it was about, I'll say about a week before they signed me off officially. I woke up one evening and felt that very strange, otherworldly feeling of being pulled down, like something doesn't feel right. And it was the middle of the night, so all of the kids were asleep in the ward. And just to keep in mind that when we have wards, similar to America, though, we have like a big open ward with like separating, what do you call it, curtains. Like mine was kind of open, and you can see the other kids, and they see like the nurses' station. So like the nurses were across there doing their paperwork with like a dimly lit light kind of thing. I thought, okay, something's at the end of my bed. I could feel like a weight and a shuffling down there, and I could see that the nurses were over there busy. The kids were asleep, so I couldn't figure out what it was. So I'd like to assume that maybe a kid was playing a prank on me. That would be the nice way to see it, though, but I couldn't see any evidence of that. What I noticed was this dark figure at the end of my bed. Oh, I hate talking about this thing, sorry. Right. So this thing at the tip of its head I saw was like burnt meat and kind of charred wood. If you can imagine that being together, basically. And it began to rise up above the end of the bed. And as I began to see the beginnings of facial features, I saw two long, kind of wiry, spindly kind of fingers like go over the protector bar,
Oh my
kind of slowly crouch over and rise above. And so it's giving me goosebumps even now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had two eyes. So these two eyes just appeared above the protector bar. I saw just in her face. It kind of stopped just below where my chin is here. And it just stared. And as I saw it, I was absolutely overtaken by primal fear. But I couldn't physically move. Like, I think of the phrase, I forget who said it though, I must scream, but I cannot, basically. It's like I had no mouth and I couldn't move.
Yeah.
But it was so fixated on me, and it just simply observed me as if I was something to be studied or enjoyed almost. And
So you had the symptoms of sleep paralysis, meaning you can't move,
yes,
but you can visualize, see, sense,
absolutely.
smell.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because I've considered it to be sleep paralysis, though. So that's a possibility. But also consider the fact that I would have been on morphine and all sorts of different medication to treat that. But the only reason why I'm saying this, again, it links to reality, because this blooming thing followed us home after this event, and that's like another big part of the story. And eventually, like after a number of years of harassing my family, was witnessed by another medium who came to visit us one day. And this thing I'd never described to all of my family, because quite frankly, we were a single parent family. So my mum was just managing us on her own.
Yeah.
I didn't want to add to her burden by telling her everything that was going on. But this thing eventually, like, it got to a point where it was so extreme where we had to call the help of a medium. And back then I didn't believe in mediums. I thought they were all jokes and liars. Little did I know.
Yeah.
But this lady confronted this thing, dealt with this thing, and I asked her to draw this thing without me explaining it to her. She drew it bit for bit exactly as I had been seeing it for many years. So I do believe this thing is real. I don't know what it is, but it seemed to enjoy my suffering. But yeah, just to add to the end of this little story, basically in terms of like landing evidence. So I mentioned I was flying over this bridge. I would like to fly now. It would be a really cool skill though, but so I haven't really been able to do it since, really. But so yeah, basically a number of years later, I must have been about 9, 10 roughly. Keep in mind, this is the 90s though, where there's no health and safety. Kids will just be left to do whatever they do, basically. Like, to be fair, this is like late 90s anyway. But so yeah, I was with my friend. We used to like to go to these pools in Oxford, Hinksey pools. Oxford's quite known for having terrible traffic. So my friend had this idea, said, hey, actually, if you can get your mum to drop us off in this village just outside of Oxford, we can take a shortcut in and avoid all the traffic. And I thought, great, okay, well, I don't know this place, but I'll trust you. So we went to this beautiful village, South Hinksey village, gorgeous little kind of location. And he said, yeah, hey, just follow me and we'll go this way. And this is the area where locals call it the Devil's Backbone, which I find is quite apt for this experience, really. So it's like a string of paths just outside the city, and this area floods quite a lot. So when you see it during flood season, it looks like a backbone going in and out of the water, like a serpent almost. So that's where it gets its nickname from. Yeah, but I didn't know that there then anyway. That this was me as like a new experiencer, I suppose, like just going along with the flow. So yeah, I went with my friend to start this journey, and it's not too long of a walk. And just towards the end of this walk, I saw these steps, these cement steps, and that's where I had that pulling feeling again. I thought, I recognize this. Like I had this many, many years ago. It's coming back again. I walked up these steps and I saw the train yard, and I began to realize again, this thing's aligning like it did back in the hospital. I walked further as my legs were wobbling more and more, and I reached the end of this walkway, took the steps down, and there it was, the lake. And this is a place that in my body there and then I hadn't been to before. I had no memory, as in conscious memory, of being there. Yet I'd flown there, identified the exact location, and I was able to see the tiny little details I identified. So the Dreaming Spires walks with those. So I remember seeing specifically like Christchurch College. There's like a few old church buildings, like everything aligned exactly as I remembered it in this almost like a photographic like print of this moment that I had outside of the body, so to speak. And that's where I had another meltdown, basically. Like I just couldn't even speak to my friend. Like I wasn't exactly screaming out and all that day, but I just froze and was just, I can't explain the feeling. And the best description I've come to this is what psychologists now call ontological shock, which for anyone that doesn't know the term, I'm sure you guys know anyway, but it simply means the shock you experience when ultimately the knowledge that you have, which makes you what you are, for example, your belief system, your worldview and knowledge gets completely and utterly torn apart.
Yeah.
And you're left with, who am I? What is this? And why am I here? But imagine experiencing that as a kid.
That's
It really
that's
does-
I can't imagine.
that's what
messes
I
you
was
up.
thinking. I just want to say this.
Yeah.
The whole time you're talking, I'm thinking about your age. Please
Right.
let our listeners know the age you were when this event occurred.
Oh yes, so the accident happened when I was 5. You guys may argue as to like how can a 5-year-old remember this much? All I can say is I did.
No, I can believe
It's
it.
common assumption that is the case, but there's lots of evidence that does happen. But when you have such a traumatic experience, it stays with you, and you never forget. You know, forgive me for going into the detail. Like I can remember, I can see it now, what the underneath of the car looked like that ran me over, as I was conscious enough before I went blank. I was kind of on and off during those moments to record bits and pieces I saw before I was dragged over to the other side of the road. So
Yes.
when people kind of say to me, yeah, you can't remember that, well, it's not fun to remember it. I don't like having to say it, quite frankly, but unfortunately it is. But and then yeah, and I want to talk about what happened to me on the bridge. I was, like I say, about 9 or 10 roughly at that age. So like a few years had passed. And what a lot of experiences don't often talk about is the burden of knowing, really. So I'm neither a believer or a non-believer. I'm an experiencer. So believers and non-believers are kind of similar in a way because they're making decisions based on the lack of knowledge, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be skeptical of certain events as well. Again, perfectly okay. But when you're given an empirical as an experiencer, whether you like it or not, you've got to live with that. So I had to go back to church, and I was brought up Catholic originally, and this is nothing against anyone who's Catholic now, or any religions really. This is just my experience, of course. I had to go back to church with the knowing that there is something else out there, and it could be one of many things that isn't in the descriptions given to me by my local priests and whatever's been defined for me.
Yeah.
And as well as that, I had to go back to school and be a normal kid after knowing what I knew. But I was so young then, I had all of this information stuck inside of my brain. I didn't have the cognitive ability to begin to describe these kind of things. And that's why now, as a very old 41-year-old man, I'm kind of now able to go back to those memories with a higher processor now. I'm much more versed in language. I have, thanks to my podcast as well, I've spoken to many different people about their experiences, which has helped me to understand my own some more. Now going back to that very large, 700,000 terabytes of data, and now beginning to decompress bits and pieces and learnings. And the one takeaway I do have from this is a thing that the entity said to me on the other side is, there is no me and I, there is only we and us. And it's creepy, but it's at the same time, I feel like this is no knowledge. Like there are no separations between each and every one of us. Like, for
Exactly.
example, I'm in the UK, you guys are in the US, or we're based at different locations across the world, basically.
Uh-huh.
All of these separations don't really matter. We're all beings interconnected as part of this grand universe. And it's almost like this entity, yes, we've met before, maybe. It's almost, the entity was just reminding me that we are so much more, basically. Like, it's almost like the power isn't without, it's within, if that makes sense. But within is the connection to everything. So I know it all sounds a bit airy fairy and fey and such, but either way, like, that's what I've had to sit with. And yeah, like, I just tried to go back to church, and these, lovely hymns being sung, and these lessons being learned, all these happy people. And I was just miserable, thinking, I feel like I'm dirty because I've had this experience. And at the same time, like what you're saying, I don't believe in it anymore, and I can't
Yeah, because you're
trust
trying to
it.
make
And
sense of it. And then also you will hear from, whether be it Catholic, Baptist, or Christian, that you're supposed to totally repel anything that's not, based
absolutely,
upon religion. Anything you don't understand, you're supposed to deem it as demonic, evil, and don't even entertain it. And so I totally understand what you're saying.
absolutely. But yeah, this, on the positive side, this experience, I found that when I came back from this connection with whatever it is, it changed the way my brain worked. Before, I was quite a happy-go-lucky kid, but I wasn't creative at all. And I know at the age of 5, you haven't fully developed enough to be able to be, to know who you are really, though.
Yeah.
But either way, when I came back, I had this artistic ability, and I noticed that my brain worked very differently. Like my emotions felt very deep from a very young age, and that could be part of the PTSD and the trauma. And I get that kind of activates that side of you, because it's rare for a little kid to have depression, because usually depression is a very complex emotion. You often hear about that with teenagers and adults. It's very rare that you hear kids have depression, and that's what I was diagnosed with quite a young age, along with deep PTSD. And it almost kind of just signifies that change in mind. But I had this artistic ability, and I kind of feverishly drew a lot towards the end of my time in hospital, because I realized that the more that I drew, the less my physical body hurt. And it's like, I described it as bloodletting of pain. It's like you're just letting it out.
Mm-hmm.
I've continued with that ability since, and it's led me to, I'm a graphic designer now, and I'm a kind of psychedelic artist as well, and I do all sorts, with my ability. But there's something that kind of gave me, it's like there's an artistic ability that I had. I was many, many years ahead of the kids in school, and it's even like when I went into primary school, when they could see that, when they could see what I could do, they even said to my mum then, like, basically, Stan, like, there's nothing we can give Stan at this school which would, placate him enough to satisfy that need, but we'll support him through his artistic, talents as much as we can, though. So yeah, they let me do like maths, and on the side I'll be doodling or do a bit of like basic science. And I was kind of doodling away. So they kind of left me to do it basically, though. But that helped me just to begin to like get through all of that. What on earth happened?
Yeah.
What on
Yeah.
earth happened to me? Where did I go? And another beautiful part of that actually is one last thing. I'm going to give you guys a positive as well, because I don't want to scare you guys as well, because a lot of good did come out of that anyway. With this kind of connection that I had, like this, had this deepness and advancedness of thought and artistic abilities. I had these experiences with what I would call the sky doctors. So if you imagine, like in the hospital, I have my physical doctors helping my body to repair, and God knows how I actually survived that. Doctors were expecting me to not walk, and I walked. Doctors were expecting me to have a certain amount of brain damage. Thankfully, touch wood, I don't have any, although my friends would say otherwise. But either way,
Yeah.
like, I had these experiences like for a number of years after. Like, I was in primary school, and I'm not sure what the equivalent is in the US, though, but primary school is like the school you go to between the ages of 5 and 12.
Like elementary and high school.
Elementary, yes, thank you. Yeah, elementary. My dear Watson. But yeah, so I used to kind of walk away from my friends, like instinctively, like it's almost like I was taken over by something. So we'd all be playing out in the, and on the grounds at lunchtime. I'd walk away, and I didn't know why I was walking there, but I just let my body do what it needed to do. And I used to lie in the grass and look up at the sky. And I kind of looked up at the sky, and the intensity of the blue, grew so much it was just almost blinding. And I saw the sky open up, and what I would see is kind of like I was looking through a portal where these beings were looking down at me, and they kind of looked similar to doctors, wearing kind of doctors' coats and masks and everything. And the weird thing is, like, I'd go into this meditative state for around 5 to 10 minutes, and my friends were so oblivious; they hadn't a clue that I even walked away anyway. But I would do this quite a lot, but I feel like I would have a conversation with these things like almost telepathically, like they were asking me questions, I was telling them answers, and they were passing information back and forth, back and forth. And at the end of these conversations, I'll get up, like wipe the grass off me, and just go back to my friends and not think too much about it. But I had the feeling of the conversation, and the annoying thing is, I don't remember exactly what was said. It was like it's almost like there's a threshold. You're not allowed to know these things. Like you have to go back to being a kid in this life and continue this journey. I'm not allowed to know, but I had a feeling like I feel a bit better. So every time I had a visit from the sky doctors for that time over a number of years, it helped me feel almost like when your spirit returns to your body, basically, it's like putting back on an old sock. It's like, you want to get a nice fresh sock to put on, of course, though, but imagine putting on an old sock and it never quite fully fits, basically. It's like slightly, ajar, and you kind of twist it this way, twist it that way, and it doesn't quite work, but you just have to just deal with it. And it's kind of like putting your suit back on, your body or vessel, I suppose. It's like they were treating me for a while to try and just adjust back into this body again. And it's like maybe I entered an area where I shouldn't have been. Maybe I don't know, but I feel like they were it's almost like a crime scene in a way. It's like they're trying to cover up all the evidence and just gather those things together and get everything back into order again, but also study what happened. It's a weird thing to describe. But anyway, roughly, I think from the age of at the end of primary school, really, or elementary, as you say, they stopped visiting, and I was okay with that. I felt like, I was all right, and I've never felt fully great since, but I'm a lot better than I was on my return. So yeah, so my whole story kind of comes to the question, like, what is consciousness? For my evidence, I'll present the idea that consciousness seems to survive without the body, like this body is a vessel, much like the car is that you drive every day to go to work. Like, if you guys, can we mention brand names on here? Am I going to get you in trouble?
No, definitely.
That's fine. So if you drive like a lovely Ford vehicle, like you don't get to work and everybody call you Ford, do you? They call you Bobby, for example. Like it's just like the vessel that you're in now. Like this is my Ford that I'm driving right now, but I'm not always going to be this version of Stan. Basically, I seem to be so much more than that. And also, second to that, idea of consciousness is there's something else out there. There's a bigger fish, and there could be that there's another bigger fish beyond that bigger fish. Be the way that the God that I was told to pray to, and the saints I was taught to learn from, perfectly fine stories though, but there's something more outside the bounds of the parameters that have been set for us. So yeah. Sorry, I have to take a sip of tea now. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can I ask a couple questions just while you were going through? Oh my God, it's just crazy all of the things that you went through in such a short amount of time. I cannot even imagine it.
Yeah.
My first question, going back to when you initially saw that entity or you felt the entity, do you think that was the same one as that terrifying burned looking one that you encountered in your hospital bed? Do you think there was a connection there?
Yeah. That's a great question. I kind of pondered that for a number of years, but I think recently I've come to the conclusion that I'm talking about the way the energies feel, because I recognize there's almost a different fingerprint, I suppose, like almost like imagine like an energy fingerprint between different people and entities. I do believe they are separate. So essentially the entity that I met on the other side, the very more powerful one, was kind of like the gatekeeper at the edge of time. Like imagine like Egyptian mythology, like the boat master, you pay the coin to cross the river Styx kind of thing. Like this person had authority. This thing that I met at the edge of the bed, I felt like it was something that followed me from the other side, so to speak, into this world.
Yeah.
And this thing, from my understanding of its behavior, and I'm almost now trying to think about it as I'm studying an animal, so it seems less scary. Like its behavior it was fascinated by me, and it seemed to enjoy the things that was happening in my life. And like I had quite a sad time, quite frankly, because just give you a bit of context, guys. Anyway, so you guys decide what to believe as well. Don't let me tell you what to think, of course. So just that context. Even just before the accident happened, my dad lost our house from a very silly decision. So we were living with our other English grandmother at the time. So there's a lot of family pressures, a lot of things kind of going on. And then the accident happened. That was obviously a lot of pressure. I had a very angry dad at the time as well. So that's feeding into the energies, a lot kind of going on. And there's all sorts going on, like, I was bullied quite severely going back to school because the kids knew I was very different. I spoke in a very, I come from Oxford and we do speak very strangely over here, but I spoke in an extra strange way. Like I come up with very odd phrases that don't make sense for a kid to say, and
Yeah.
I don't mean to. All I want to do is to be actually loved and to live as a kid, basically to fit in.
Mhm.
But I had some friends over that, they would never be close friends. Like they'd be at a distance because they could feel something was off, and I kind of don't blame them. But at the same time, like it would have been great just to have a break, really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so there's a lot of kind of there's kind of deaths. My grandmother, who I absolutely adored, died, when I was I think it's about 11 years old as well. So there's different kind of traumas happening over the years, different people passing away. There's a lot of stress going on in the family, and eventually my parents got divorced as well. So we became a single parent family. And with that being said, my mother had to support both of us working 3 jobs. So at the same time, we were being harassed by this entity that followed us at home. But I think why it followed us home is I became whatever I am now. Like I would describe myself as a medium. I don't know how you guys feel about mediums anyway. Some of us don't want to be mediums. I'm very much a reluctant medium. I don't want to be one. I just want to be normal.
Exactly.
But either way, I had this weird awareness, and this thing seemed to be fascinated by me because it switched something on. And then it followed us through the many years in our former kind of family home, and it just so many strange things were happening there. We had strange whistlings, objects moving, smells, smoke. These things kind of sound like standard poltergeist-like activity, but it escalated further to the point where we had like almost literally the distorting of reality. Like I went into my bedroom once in the middle of the day and it turned to night.
Oh, wow.
Get your head around that. That freaked me out. That's when we had to get this medium involved. But a lot of things happened over a number of years where this thing seemed to be there, almost triggering these events to happen, and just loving it, absolutely loving it. I had, towards the end of my time there, I had, a stepdad for a number of years. He turned out to be a particularly nasty guy. And it's almost like this thing was feeding into people that were around me, like being quite nasty and angry. Like I'd have very angry teachers at school, which, but this is part of the mystery. I know this is a very long answer to your question, though, so apologies, though.
Oh,
but I'm
no.
trying to give you
It's a great answer, because that's what truly happens, and these entities, I believe, feed off of.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Like it seems to be more common than I thought in these experiences now. So that's, it sounds horrible, but it's great to know that it's happened to other people. But what I noticed was there was a number of years where I thought everybody just hated me. Like people would get so angry so quickly. Like, yeah, I know I'm annoying. I know I can be that kind of way. Like, if I wouldn't shy away from that though, but not so much where people get violent suddenly. So
yeah,
I remember one instance where I had a maths teacher. Over here we say maths, by the way, not math, I have to say. So I know it's going to annoy you guys. So my maths teacher, he had this. He's like standard like angry maths teacher, big old messy beard, and like kind of the stereotype of what you think a maths teacher would be, but so it was a bit grumpy anyway, but never violent. But I remember one time actually coming to him after not being able to do my homework, and it was just me and him in the room after the kids had left. I said, "Yeah, really sorry, sir. Can you help me with X, Y, and Z?" And he just paused for a moment, and it's the first time I recognized what I would call the takeovers happened, where his eyes would lose their sheen, and it would be what I would describe as like looking at a dead body. Like a dead body loses its sheen. You can see the energy goes from the eyes. He just paused for a moment and started saying like horrible things, like just you effing this, you effing that, and like
wow,
almost like growling in his voice and like muttering horrible things to himself. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he kind of like stood out of his seat and kind of shot that back. And he started shouting. I don't know what it was, but when you're a kid, you're so empowered by something. You're not recording actual data. You're just panicking, so you're in a freak out mode.
Yeah.
And he just got up, flipped the table, and kicked his chair to the other side of the room and just walked straight out, or stomped straight out. And at that point, I was just shaking. Like, it's that adrenalized moment that you get where you can't quite comprehend it. But this is the example that I'm supposed to follow. This is the adult that's supposed to be teaching me how to be better and be good. But I remember him coming into the room a few minutes later. Like, I'd noticed his eyes were normal again. They had their sheen back, and he was alive. Alive, I would describe him as. And he just didn't say sorry. He just nodded at me and kind of carried on, like completely like sullen, like he'd realized he'd done wrong. And that's where these events kept happening. So just teachers would randomly explode. Like some teachers that were quite nice to me would suddenly change, or yeah, my stepdad at home, for example, like I do believe he may have been affected by whatever was in the house. I'd have friends come over who would just suddenly get angry. And even to me, like over time, it slowly sapped my energy where I stopped hanging out with friends. I didn't want to know people because I saw everybody in the world as just being horrible. I think if this is the world that I return to, why on earth am I here?
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to realize actually something was affecting them and just loving it basically. And yeah, thanks to the help of a good friend and medium called Penny. He's in my book as well. She's awesome. She's actually on a couple of episodes of my podcast now. She's a good friend today. She literally saved my life for the second time, really. So she was able to separate me from whatever this thing is.
Wow.
And from there, I began to realize actually this is what it's like to actually. So it's almost like I returned to the earth on, a few months after the accident when I was 5, but it took me until like it was like my late teens, early 20s when this happened. I can't remember exactly. I think I was probably about 21, 20. It took me all those years later to actually wake up and then realize actually this is what it feels like to be in your body and be awake again, to feel love, to feel peace and happiness and laughter and all these good things. This is what I've been missing out on in humanity all these years. So bless her. So that's when I began to realize and study the events that happened during that time in that house. Realize that I'm one of those medium guys that I used to make fun of on the TV, and I felt quite embarrassed about that. I think like you find the secret out about it yourself. And do you mind? Can I swear on this, baby? I don't.
Oh, yes. No, you're good. It's adult rated.
Oh, good. Okay, just to make sure. So yeah, when I spoke to Penny about it, it said like I've now had time to process what's happened and what you faced and all that. Like, quite frankly, I think I might be a medium. Like, what do you think? And she's turned around and says, "Stan, no shit, Sherlock." That's the first response. She's a legend. I love her. But so yeah, like I began to kind of make peace with that. I think, oh, now it's beginning to make sense. This is why I can feel and see these weird kind of things. And it's like even during that time, I did have a lot of it was negative. There were moments where it's almost like the energy was elevated enough for very interesting things to happen that were, I would say, towards the positive end. For example, my cat died, which I don't mean to sound horrible though, but there's a night when my cat passed away during that time. Puss, bless her.
Yeah.
It was a very shocking moment, and yeah, I detailed this in my book, so I'll just tell you shortly though. But yeah, she essentially came back that evening. It's one of the most profound, most beautiful paranormal experiences I've ever had, and this lasted over about 2 hours. Usually these are fleeting moments, but basically, like when she passed over, I was in shock, traumatized, and just she was my best friend. Like when I got back from the hospital, Puss used to be with me all the time. It's like she was my familiar for a number of years because she was helping me to heal as well.
Yeah.
And she died like instantly, like it meant nothing.
Wow.
By this, again, a car speeding through the street. So I seem to have this theme around cars at the moment. Yeah, I kind of looked to the end of my bed and saw what were the impressions of these paw prints. Like it was pushing down and I could hear purring. I could smell her as well and feel the warmth of her, but there was no cat there. I watched it very slowly go up the side of me. She used to sleep on top of my head at night. And that night, I felt like the weight go on my head. And I was putting my arms down to feel like what's going on here. Like my hands were going through her, but I could feel like there was a depression above my head, like as if there was a weight pushing down, but there's nothing physically to do that. So I can't explain how that would work. So I felt at peace in that moment. I didn't feel scared. I felt like this is the last night I'm going to have with my friend. I just knew it in my gut.
Yeah.
And that lasted for no word of a lie. I was watching the clock and I was trying to force myself to be awake for as long as I could into the early hours of the morning. For 2 hours, just sat there with an invisible purring cat. And eventually I passed out and fell asleep and woke up for school the next day. And I was expecting to wake up devastated and just missing my friend. And I felt so happy. I felt like I had a chance to say goodbye. And it's like she was doing exactly what she did when she was alive, looking after me.
Yeah.
So what a beautiful cat, though. But yeah, I'll tell the story in more detail there anyway to give more evidence, though. But this leads to the fact that, the strange and unusual does happen to the most ordinary people. I consider myself ordinary, at least before all this anyway.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody at any time. It's okay to talk about these things. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Stan. I'm wondering that had that traumatic accident not happened, if any of this would have, would you have gotten these? I mean, I know you say you're a reluctant medium, but would that have happened without that traumatic accident? What do you think?
I suppose I don't know because I haven't lived that different timeline. I only know this particular timeline, though. I mean, it's a possibility because, I do have these photos. I would love to have investigated of photos that were taken of me before the accident happened. So roughly about a month before it happened, my mum was very proud of herself. She bought me a school uniform because I was going to start primary school then. So we had to wear a particular, this part of Oxford, we used to wear, even when they were kids, we had to wear ties and these blazers and just shirts and what. It's all very kind of like posh looking, really.
Yeah.
So she kind of took a few photos, really proud of that. And the strange thing is there are these like anomalies on the photos. And keep in mind, this is like the 90s. So we had to develop photos back then, no digital cameras, of course. And there are these lightning strikes through the photo. And maybe if I can share with you guys anyway, if you can provide any further info, you're welcome to those. But I haven't explained them yet. And basically, like, yeah, this was taken roughly about a month or so before the accident happened. And there are these lightning strikes going through my legs, my arms, like. I have kind of analyzed them to think, could there be misprints, double prints? For example, if someone took a photo of some trees, some branches, that could have maybe superimposed, and then you can get anomalies like that. They don't look like trees or branches. They look like pure energy. And I did think about, okay, could it be the developing fluid, the stop fluid, for example, that, didn't fully seal it, basically? Like, they don't look like drips either. I actually studied them because I eventually kind of later went to college and I studied graphic design. And back then we used to study photography, like traditional photography. So we had to develop it with the film and everything. So I tried to actually replicate my old photos as I was beginning to kind of uncover that story, and I couldn't replicate it then. It doesn't mean it can't be explained by kind of professional, like, tangible means, but I've yet to explain that.
I just want to say,
so things were around me before then.
That's what I love about your story. From the start of your book to the start of any of your YouTube videos that I've watched, you always say that, is this paranormal? You like debunk yourself and you look for other reasons or possibilities instead of going straight to the initial, this is paranormal, this is, and I don't mean from your story, because your story, you're just telling it you're telling it like, this is what happened to me. Like, you're telling a family event or an event, a vacation, which is a horrific vacation, but you're telling it as a matter of fact. You're not telling it as a book author. You're not telling it as a person who's writing something down. You're telling it as a factual, this is what happened to me and this is my story. And I love when you talk about, religion, because you're at odds with it, because it basically is saying, well, religion says this is how things are supposed to go, but then why did this happen to me? And all these things, were real, you're not, and then you tell people you don't have to believe me, but I beg you to listen to my story, because there's a disconnect with, humanity when it comes to situations and stories like these. And what I believe you had this ability before the accident. And I think this entity was following you from the day you were probably born. And unfortunately, a lot of events occurred through your life, from 0 to 5 that you had no control of, but this entity was creating chaos. And the possibilities of the pineal gland as a young person and it being open and not being shrunken as you get older, that access. And then when this particular incident happened to you, when you went into this other realm, or you're basically became one with, everything, that's why you were able to be able to recount, because you're just, recounting from a standpoint of what happened to you as this being that has left his body. And some people, yes, as you're older, they will see the light, they will see particular certain things, but then there's the other side to where it's like, before you're born, you're just one with everything. At least that's what I believe. And I believe you had that encounter and was able to recount everything. And I also believe, based upon the morgue situation, whether that was a tunnel for people passing, where, the ushering of death comes and has that pull, I'm not sure. But I think something did manifest or say, this person can sense me. This person is different than all the others. And especially when it realizes you're going back, this person's going to go back and I can live off this person's energy. To me, there's so much. And I just want to say that because there was so much going on and I had to go back and rewind. But yeah, I just think your story is so incredible.
I mean, I was going to
Yeah,
say, I thought that thing might have been there and he just was able to finally see it again, or he was able to finally see it. Something that had already been messing with them before.
Yeah,
And then after
I
the
feel the
accident, he
same
finally
way.
came across it.
Yeah,
I actually was wondering, though, as far as like the different areas where you were saying these happen, like the hospital in various places, have you ever gone back to like look at those places again, or maybe like contact the nurse or the nurses or anybody who you had met around those times? The teacher,
Yeah,
even?
that's a great question. For one, I tried to get in contact with the person that ran me over to get an understanding of what really happened. Did they even care? But unfortunately, yeah, they passed away about 6 or 7 years after the accident. Unfortunately, because, well, long story short, he should have gone to prison basically for what he did. Because he was too old. He wasn't, which wasn't true. He was just very rich, and because obviously we're a poor family, so he's very rich and paid a few people off, and that was that, sadly. So, unfortunately, that was a tangent that I didn't want to go down, that I discovered more about. But as for the doctors, I mean, I owe them my life. I genuinely do that. And I went back a number of years later. I was beginning to uncover the story and asked them at the John Ratcliffe, like, can you help me to understand who helped me? And they said, quite frankly, like, they went through all their details and said, we burn our files after a number of years because just so much information comes through this hospital. So at the point I called them, they were digitizing them anyway, so it's easier for them to store. But because it's the 90s, they got like big old cases. Like, imagine like FBI cases and like rooms full of all these different bloody blahs. But yeah, so they couldn't find details on my doctors. So, but I do remember one doctor in particular who helped me on my return. Lovely doctor called Dr. Rawcliffe, which obviously you guys are not going to know anyway, but he's very much a loved member of our community. He helped me a lot when I returned back. And the weird thing is, this story just keeps expanding and expanding. So I'm going to answer what you guys said about your conclusion. I think all of you are very wise. I'm very impressed by you all, actually. But just to add to this before I go into that, that is, I went back to the location where the devil's backbone, so to speak, a number of years later to kind of make peace with this and understand it. And it's frightening seeing the location that you went to, where you were hit by this car, and just seeing it in the modern day. Like, it just sends chills down your spine. And I look at people walking by thinking, guys had no idea what happened here, and would you even believe me anyway, quite frankly? Like, but yeah, I kind of went there to make peace with that. And yeah, so kind of trying to think how to explain this really. It's a complex thing. So yeah, it's kind of, when I went back, I began to realize actually, I'm kind of okay with this now. I'm beginning to understand what happened. The weird thing is, the lovely Dr. Rawcliffe, who helped me, who I didn't see for many years after the accident there, he kind of left the surgery and kind of went on his way. But I've always remembered him and thought the world of him. At the end of the Devil's Backbone, I saw a bench. And I thought, was drawn to it there. And I thought, okay, that's strange. It was just in front of this beautiful church in South Hinksey Village. On the bench was Dr. Rawcliffe's bench. He had passed away about 4 years prior, and they dedicated a bench to him in his memory at the start of the Devil's Backbone, where I had this paranormal experience, which led to me meeting him. That's weird in itself. But also, kind of adding to that, I began to ask myself, like, why did I fly to that specific location over the bridge? I'm taking myself back in time to the way I would think as a kid. I was trying to complete my journey because in my mind, I was on the way to my nonna's house to cook some food with her. I was hit by a car and I went on this whole experience. Me and my spirit body was trying to make my way back to her house because her house is at the end of the Devil's Backbone, in these flats on the other side of the lake. But that lake I hadn't visited when I used to visit her because it was just a bit further down. So basically I began to realize why I was trying to bring myself back is I was trying to get myself back to an area that I knew. All I knew, the last thing I was doing was trying to find my nonna, so to speak. But yeah, just add more context as well. Like what you guys say about it potentially being a calling before this is something I don't mention in the book, and I'll go into more detail in its sequel. Strange happenings happened before the event, other than the photos. Beautiful. Like there's this lady who's best friends with my mum. Like we're really good friends with this Muslim family, and they're very deep into their spiritual faith. But usually they don't often speak about mediums. I do believe my mum's friend was one of those. I didn't know at the time. But basically they would have these kind of, best friend conversations all the time. They'd always be in touch. We'd always kind of walk to school together, like both of our families, back and forth. And she had a conversation with my mum a couple of weeks before the accident happened and said, I had this really strange dream. I really feel like I need to tell you about it. And She said, I saw this man in black stood at the edge of a road at this crossing, and she said, I think it's the crossing on the Abingdon Road just outside of Oxford. She sort of identified the exact location, and she said it's really strange, but this man was stood there watching me, and it's almost like I was walking to work, and I just stopped because I knew he was watching me, and we locked eyes. And she said I could see bits and pieces of detail, and he was wearing a flat cap. He's wearing like a shirt and like a coat over it, basically. But she described his features to my mum, and she said that's strange. She said that's my dad. Because I have inherited my granddad's name, Stanislaw. That's why I'm called Stan now. Anyway, but yes, my granddad, Stanislaw, who came from Poland. She described it, and she said, "Yeah, that's my dad." She says, "Why are you having a dream about my dad?" And so the weird thing is, like, the details that she gave to my mum match him exactly. She never had met my granddad because he died just before I was born. So this was quite a number of years later when all this happened. So I know, sorry guys, if I keep jumping backwards and forwards in
no,
time though, but I try to do it as clearly as I
you're
can
doing
for
amazing.
you. But yeah, she had identified him, and she said it was so spooky. She said, I felt like he needed to tell me something, but I don't know what it is, but I just want to let you know. And then, yeah, a few days happened. A couple of weeks later, it happened. And yeah, it was exactly the crossing on the Abingdon Road where I was hit. I went through all of that, and bless her, that lady came to my mum a few days later when I was in the ICU. And she said, I'm so sorry. Like, I told you this dream. I feel like I could have changed it. Like, if I knew enough information, I could have changed it. It could have been different. My mum was always clear with her from the beginning, like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It was just, But how she was able to exactly describe my granddad, she'd never met my granddad. She hadn't seen photos of my granddad. There weren't many photos of him anyway back in the day because, again, he came from a very poor family. We're a poor family then. Like, to afford a decent enough camera of him around that time, basically, they just didn't have it, basically. Like, anyway. But yeah, it seems like he knew, and knowings were beginning to happen before this happened, but nobody knew this was happening to stop it from happening, essentially. So there are aspects to this that I'm beginning to realize it's expanding further and further. Like I say, the coincidence of the so-called coincidence at the end of The Devil's Backbone, where the doctor that helped to save me after I came back, basically, at least one of the ones I can identify, his bench that was dedicated to him is at the end of The Devil's Backbone there. And like I say, the warnings before the event happened, the strange photos that were developed there's numerous photos that we had taken of me then before the accident happened. I just can't explain it though, but it seems there was something going on in the works that I wasn't aware of. And would I have wished this situation would have happened differently? Maybe. I mean, yes, in a way, because I just want to be normal.
Yeah.
I've never known what it feels like just to live a normal life, not traumatized, not feeling with anxiety, OCD, all of this extra processing that it gives me, because it exhausts me sometimes, like the amount of thoughts that come in. But at the same time, all of this, like, I'm able to share this story now, and me sharing this book ever since, I've had all these beautiful messages from people, and it's helped them to come to understand their own trauma, but also speak out about their paranormal experiences. And it's afforded me the career that I have today as well. And the podcast that I do today as well helps people to, like, so yeah, I do kind of wish it never happened, but at the same time, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing now and speaking to you guys right now. And it's been such a privilege that I'm essentially a nobody, basically. I'm not anybody famous, not anybody special. Yet this book happens, it's kind of opened up opportunities, really. So,
but yet you are, unfortunately.
Yes, I am. Yes.
It's like John the Baptist, or unfortunately, the stories from the Bible where people go through a lot, and then they have to live with that. But then they're helping so many other people, through that, through their issues and problems and understanding of what's really going on and they think they're going crazy.
Yeah, it does feel like that sometimes, but I'm very much a grounded person. I'm not forceful with people. I don't tell people what to think. All I can do is present them with my findings. But I'm very, very clear on, I don't like to tell people what to think. Like, the parameters have been formed around you, depending on your culture, the country you're born into, the religions you're in. It's up to you to be brave enough to bound over those fences of the parameters that are given to you, to then truly explore the universe and what beautiful things are out there. So the things that we're told to fear, like, I don't like the word paranormal, even though it's written on my book numerous times. I don't like the word paranormal.
Yeah.
It's parallel to a defined normal, but who on earth decided what is normal?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just
That's
it's
so
stupid.
understandable.
Like, but the word paranormal also has.
He was talking about being normal, And it was like,
Totally,
yeah,
totally. But this is what you guys do. You normalize the conversations about the paranormal, but people are so afraid to talk about it because of stigma, because of all the movies that you watch, and and I'm a really big fan of like The Conjuring and various. I'm a big horror movie buff. I love those,
oh
but
yeah, yeah,
I
boy,
watch those knowing that I've kind of been through worse than that in some instances. Like it will
Yeah.
never be as scary as it is actually meeting these things. So yes, I feel like even though I've experienced a lot of pain and doubt, and there's times in my life, quite frankly, where it's affected me so badly that I didn't want to be here. Basically, like I wanted to return back to where I went to.
Yeah.
That's to say, but because I kind of saw it through and began to realize actually what this story means, it's at least added some meaning to the suffering. And suffering's only worth suffering if it brings something out of it. Basically, if you evolve, you don't go into your cocoon to not become the butterfly, so to speak. That's kind of the way I like to see it now. And maybe I'm applying my own meaning to survive ultimately, but so yeah, but also speaking, but yeah, sorry if I'm speaking too much anyway.
Oh no,
Feel
no,
free to
you're
interrupt
you're,
me
you're
anyway,
fine.
but,
Trust me. Yes, people are going to be like, "Why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you ask that? Why didn't you ask this?" So, but that's understandable. But no, I love hearing your story and everything else. And we've had a lot of people on with NDEs, and the only reason why they don't go back is because they don't want to do anything to end their life, but they want to go back. They miss that experience. But they also know eventually they're going to get to the destination. Or
to recreate the experience. I mean, or if they could do it like in a controlled way, even just like create like how you mentioned meeting that entity, the what you call it, the infinite entity, and
yeah,
some
I don't
people
have a name for it. It's just some horrible dude. I think for now, I don't really have a
Well,
name.
yeah, you might not want to meet
not
him.
that one, no, not the one
yeah.
at the bed, but the one you met that told the phrase you had mentioned.
Oh, yeah, I nicknamed it the man at the edge of time because I felt like it's an
Yeah, there
appropriate
we go.
description, but I can't really give a name to it just yet because I don't think, again, naming is a human thing.
Yeah.
We put parameters and measures on things. It's like there's an expression, putting a blanket around the unknown to give it shape.
Yeah.
We put shapes around things to make it seem less scary because we're afraid of not comprehending or knowing these things.
And you did say
Yeah,
it didn't
so I
have
don't
much
think
of
it
a
even has a
shape.
name. It doesn't understand what names are, to be honest with you. Sorry.
I was wondering. You said that because the entity it didn't have much of a shape to it.
No,
The one that you said it like you said like the end of time.
Morgue area.
yeah, it's because like if you can imagine what a paradox is like, and I know it's quite hard to do, like it had no shape because again, shapes and understandings in this world are formed on the limitations given to us. So we have time here, we have mass, we have the various different things we use to operate within this realm. Where it operates, there are no boundaries. It's like everything is everything. Everything manifests instantly. So it has no shape, it has no form, it has no name, it has no measure, if that makes sense. Because these shapes and names and measures, for example, are human things.
Yeah,
We're just trying to, our little brains try to get our heads around.
That is
these,
so funny
things.
because a lot of people don't realize everything that we visually see is created from a circle, a square, and a triangle. And it makes all these things. And, that's what our perception of our reality is. And then for those who go outside of that, boy, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're allowed to. That's kind of it. If you might go too far. Well, some people be worried about going too far out of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even coming across an entity like that, where I mean, you hear stories of different ways people will, like you mentioned, giving titles and names to things. But I believe I've heard people say there are entities over there, like they call them guardians, and they kind of sit in that realm to kind of, I guess, keep people from going too far too soon and different things like that. At least along those lines of it, where if you're not supposed to be there yet, so they kind of have you go back and different. Yeah, so it's kind of like along the lines of those, and even to I mean, even just like meeting. Well, I don't know if you meet multiple of those, but yeah, they if there was a way to label some of them, I actually kind of like the thought that something like that could exist on that edge of reality or paranormal or whatever people would want to call it.
But also, it's funny that when you're describing these particular dark entities, I had a situation that occurred with me that I talk about on the show, to where I was laying in bed, and in my house I have a hallway which has the thermostat, and it's a Nest to where it's censored to where you walk by it, it lights up, it tells you the time and the temperature of the house and outside. And so I'm laying in bed, and I normally don't lie on that side of the bed, but I was. And so I'm watching this. I see like the light come on in the hallway, and I'm like, okay, that's weird, because now my spidey senses are tingling, because I'm like, is somebody in the house? Like, that should not trigger. Like, there's a lot of crazy things that happen in my house, but that's not one of them that has ever gone off without someone passing in the hallway. So so I sit there, I look, and I sit up. I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then I lay back down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to see if it triggers again, I'm going to get up, And so because the portion to my door and from that nest triggering is no more than 2 feet. So they would be pretty quick in the room, right? So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I'm watching it. And then I see like a dark figure. It's already dark. The hall is pitch dark. But there is such a thing as darker than dark, which a lot of people have not seen. And trust me, when you see it, you will never forget it. Mm-hmm. And so it's something like looks over, and then it goes back real quick. I'm like, what the hell was that? Right? So I was like, damn, should I get up? And I don't get up. Next thing I know, this dark figure comes into the room, but it's not a figure. It is a cloud of darkness, along with, as it's coming into the room, it's undulating and sparking. It does not have a form, but it's sparking. It's like it looks like something that you would see in space, right? And then as it's going and sparking, I'm like, what the hell am I seeing, right? So now I'm trying to get the hell out of the bed. Now I am in fear. I'm trying to run. I'm trying to scream. I'm trying to do everything I can do, right? Now I cannot move. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So as it's approaching me, I'm, again, trying to scream, trying to yell, trying to run. It comes closer. And I am totally, it's a funny fear, though, because it's not a fear like this thing is demonic or I'm thinking something evil, right? Right now I'm thinking like, what the hell is it? And now that it's approaching me, it seems hot. It seems like it's going to burn me. So as it leans in on me, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get burned. That is the first feeling, and the reaction is like, I'm about to get burned, because this thing, whatever it is hot. It's obviously creepy and crazy. It doesn't even, it's unreal, right? So as it leans over, it's trying to tell me something. It starts to form a shape, a humanoid shape, but it leans in, and I'm like trying to rear my body back from what I think is heat, which is not heat, but my mind's telling me it's hot. But it's trying to say something to me, and I cannot understand what it's saying. So I have like a sigil tattoo for like evil and everything. So, and before I'm evoking everything, every Baptist, comment as far as religion I can think of, and thing is not doing anything, right? But then I start thinking about the sigil. Then it starts to like kind of rear back. And as I'm doing that, though, it's trying to tell me something. And then after this whole thing is over, it never felt evil. It never felt demonic. I was terrified of it, not even a question. But it was trying to tell me something. And it just seemed like after I analyzed it, like you were saying, and thought about it, it was because I had things going on in my life at the time that I had questions about, or there were certain things that just weren't, right. And at that, sorry about that. I have so much going on. I don't know if that came through the system, but because I have so many things hooked up. But anyways, so as that occurred, I started to think, man, that I wanted to know what it said more than anything else. Yeah. I was like, I couldn't understand what it was telling me. And then later, to me, I kind of figured out what I possibly thought it could be. But I do think things come to you in your not darkest times, because I wasn't anything I was doing particularly that was a dark time. It was just things around me. And I think that's what that entity or whatever it was about. So it's interesting on how things like that occur. But no one could tell me that that didn't happen. And I've never had sleep paralysis, and I wasn't asleep at the time. But, people say, well, no, you might have fell asleep during that particular brief moment and this occurred. But yeah, it was unreal.
Yeah, especially dealing with sleep paralysis.
incredible.
That's such a different situation. I don't know. I've always felt sleep paralysis, and other experiences were different, because times when I've seen things and everything, I wasn't really paralyzed and couldn't move. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know about that as much, but yeah, at least with the thing I had like seen, I was able to move. So
Yeah.
I wasn't paralyzed at all. It actually was one where you mentioned that the Blue Island, I think you would called it.
Yes.
And that,
Yes.
that was one that I wouldn't mind trying to learn more about that, even, because I don't think I've ever heard that term before.
Yeah, I
The
actually
Blue
got it
Island.
from a book that I read a little while ago, literally called The Blue Island by William T. Stead, I think it is. This is a book. It's actually recommended to me from one of my good friends, actually, and my mind was blown away. Normally, it's very hard for me to read because I find it very hard to focus on one thing at a time.
Mm.
But this thing sucked me in from start to finish. And essentially, the premise is a man that was aboard the Titanic. Of course, we all know how that went. During his crossing over, essentially, he found himself on this place where he would describe it as an island that was infinitely blue. Like the blue was at such a level of intensity, like everything looked almost completely blue. And he knew immediately when he arrived there, it's my job to help. So he helped spirits cross over during the sinking of the Titanic. He was immediately given a task. He knew he exactly had a task to complete. No job interview, no nothing, no salary expectations. Like he just knew that was my job. He knew straight away, which was interesting.
Mm.
What makes this even more interesting is the fact that this book is written supposedly from the other side. So William T. Stead is the person that passed over, and he is actually speaking to the reader from the other side, describing what he can see during this blue island, this intermediary place between this life and the next. Like think of it as like a recovery area in like maybe after soldiers have been to war, for example, they'll spend time in an infirmary to go through that place of realization of what's happened, to be checked over, and then ticked off when they're ready to pass on. So that essentially is what the Blue Island is. It's those who have passed in a way of trauma who need to come to terms with what's happened, and also to be reintroduced to the infinite of like what they really are.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's essentially Mr. Ted Stead talking from the other side through a channel. So essentially, a medium is actually channeling himself in the book itself. So I know you guys kind of may think it's quite crazy, which I did think when my friend presented it to me. I thought, no, this just seems ridiculous. You kind of need to read it yourself to understand. And I think that's a great way to understand what it's like on the other side. And but also in terms of like reference to media as well, like if you guys want to understand what mediumship is like when it comes to feeling these energies and noticing these things, the most accurate representation, I believe, from my first-hand experience is the film The Sixth Sense. Great film. We all love Bruce Willis and that poor traumatized kid who looks really upset in every film. I forget his name anyway, but he's a great actor.
Yeah.
There's a moment in the film where he's in the school and he talks to Bruce's character. He says, basically, he's describing to him like what it feels like when they arrive, and they're kind of looking to these hanged people in the hallway that Bruce's character can't see, and he basically says like, the feeling where you feel the hair at the back of your neck standing up, and you feel like the gravity in your stomach being pulled down. That's why I referenced this a few times. That's what it feels like for a lot of mediums. It's like a gravitational shift, like things begin to kind of go awry and feel different. It's like time itself seems to slow sometimes. So sometimes, for example, when you're in kind of very heavy mediumship sessions, you could be in there for what feels like 2 or 3 hours, but in reality, about 20 minutes has passed. Like time just seems to distort in really weird ways, from your perception anyway. But yeah, I do feel like that film it most accurately represents what it feels like when they're near, basically. So yeah, I kind of wonder if Bobby, like that experience you had, did you have those feelings? Was it just more kind of just visual? Because you felt like it was hot. You described But I was quite impressed by the fact you didn't run away. Like you seem
No,
to.
I tried to run away.
So you tried to run away. So
once
you weren't successful.
no, you ever well, you should know exactly what I mean. Once it was over, if I'm screaming and you're in a full scream, right? But there's nothing there, and next thing you know, time starts, and then so now you can hear the scream and everything is going at 100 miles an hour.
Yes,
that's what happened.
Yes.
So so there was chaos in that room once I was released, or once I was in a point where I can move, I'll say where it all started again, where everything started, and I was in motion. So going from running full speed and stopped to now I can run again, and that's what it was like. It was like a big crash. So
I know exactly what it is. It's like in the UK we call it squeaky bum time. Anyway, it's just like gotta go, gotta quick.
Yeah.
Bum obviously means something different over here anyway. But I guess, but yeah, it's just like the moment where you're adrenalized, it just suddenly hits you. Like I said, it's like the controls are being passed back to you.
Yeah.
Think about like video game mode, basically, in kind of in autopilot for that moment. You're observing everything that's happened, even though it's horrible. Then the controller gets passed to you, and then you can do what you need to do, get out of there, and do what. But it's like that time where I met the entity that it kind of reached the pinnacle at the time I spent in Sweetman's Road, where I experienced that thing where I said like it was nighttime, even though it was the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
The room itself was distorting, like the energy was there. I was getting pulled down. It was horrifying. I've never seen anything like it in my life in all these years. I ran. I've no shame in saying, "Oh, was that an all?" That's pretty strange.
Okay, yes, I want to tell you.
But I ran. I ran down the street barefoot. My
just real quick, Stan. Real quick. I don't want to interrupt you, but there's been a couple of orbs. So, which happens, with people like yourself, especially mediums, especially with the energies that you have. But there's been a couple. So people, when you guys watch the video, and listeners, please go watch this video. You'll see an orb. Okay. Initially, when it first happened, I want to say it was in the first probably 7 minutes. I was trying to mark the time, but it was an orb going vertical. So, there's some orbs in the backdrop.
I could feel there's something basically like, I don't want to freak you guys out, but when I start to talk about this specific story, weird things happen. I'm not saying this just for entertainment purposes, though. I'm just talking factually. For example, I was in a documentary recently, and it's so scary being in a documentary because you got like full-on film cameras. It's like really professional, so you feel like you need to do things properly. Something was messing with the equipment, so like my story is really emotional, and I'm not embarrassed to say I was in tears partway through. Like it hurts to talk about it, particular aspects of it though. But sometimes you need to man up and cry.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a paradox in itself, I know, but yeah, I was getting really emotional, and things were messing with the camera. Like this guy who actually worked on the Great British Bake Off. Funny enough, he's one of the team.
Oh, okay.
He started his own documentary called In the Void, if anyone wants to watch it.
Awesome.
I'm the first episode on the series. But yeah, about 70% of the way through the recording, the second camera kept focusing on something behind me, and it was this tracking camera. So it was set to focus just on me, but it kind of found like another face to focus on. It kept kind of switching to, and he kept kind of setting it back. So basically, you'll notice towards the end of the recording, when he flips to the other camera, I'm slightly out of focus, and it's focusing on something in the back. And we're getting kind of flickering, and there's all sorts of bizarre things happening. But I've noticed, the more I do these interviews, and this is like, I think the 24th interview that I've done for this book, and I've never talked so much in my life about it, but in a way, this has helped me to come to terms with this trauma anyway. So thank you for the opportunity. It helps me to heal too. But yeah, so it's interviews that I've been on where we get strange anomalies, again, orbs. And there's something that kind of arrives as I'm talking about it. And I don't think it's anything malevolent. I think it's the thing that I came into contact with over there. So there is a third character, which I haven't fully talked about just yet. And I don't know if I'm ready to just yet, but I have what would be called a spirit guide of sorts. And I do believe it's a good thing that followed me back to look after me. Forgive the bizarre naming, but it likes to call itself Compendium. Because it acts as a knowledge giver. So basically what I do is, as I mentioned earlier that I speak very strangely, I say specific phrases, it throws words at me. Like I have this obsession with words, and they mean things at just the right moment. It's like, for example, I went through a couple of weeks recently where I was really doubting myself, and it's to do with work and personal life. And I thought, this is just getting really hard. Everything is extremely hard. Why is it this way? And why can I not do anything well, I do the right things, though, but life won't respond in terms of like that way. And I thought, okay, what on earth is going on? And this word kept gnawing at my brain for days and days and days. And I thought, what on earth is that? Like, I don't know what that means. It's the word metanoia, which is a Greek word. And I eventually Googled it because I thought it's just bugging me. It won't leave me alone. It's like somebody's poking my brain. And I searched the word, and basically it's a word to describe an extreme state of transformation, of rediscovery, of metanoia is kind of similar to metamorphosis, though, but rather than a physical thing, metanoia is like a psychological, you know, yeah, I suppose a psychological evolution that you're going through, which really spooked me though. And yeah, literally the day after, once I began to know what that word meant, the situation I was dealing with seemed to change. Like the rules of the game seemed to go in my favor. I began to realize actually this is why this has happened. This is what I was supposed to learn from this. I think I know what to do next. And then the situation was resolved. So yeah, like I say, compendium works as a compendium. It just throws a word in. It gives me the right phrase. For example, I'm sorry I'm giving you so many stories anyway.
Oh,
Lou,
no,
and
you're
all
good.
this-
No.
this is
No,
just
yeah,
talking about
I
life,
actually
really,
like it because I was going to ask about a connection to something once you got finished with this story. But yeah,
yeah. Okay, well, tell me to stop talking in a minute.
No, don't stop
I've got
talking.
many
Don't,
questions.
don't. Please continue.
To think about your
You hold
listeners.
on to
I want
what you
guys
were
ask me
going to
as much as
say.
you can. No, that's fine.
No, go ahead.
Basically, like many years ago, like I believe my first connections with what I call compendium, what it calls itself. I was crossing this bridge in Oxford like late one night. You know, I'm not really a party guy anyway, but I was pushing myself to go to a party, and it was late one night, and making my way back. And you know, I don't drink alcohol. I didn't really drink alcohol then as well. Just to keep that in mind. I was just crossing the bridge late at night. Yeah, always tea, Earl Grey tea, actually, specifically.
Love it.
Forgive the stereotype anyway. I do have good teeth. I do have very good teeth.
That's my favorite tea, and I'm nothing but a tea drinker.
Man of good taste. I like it. No, I was just crossing this bridge late one night, and in Oxford, you don't tend to have issues with danger. Like, you do get some kind of issues, though, but nothing too much, at least back then. Yeah, I was just beginning to cross this bridge, and I saw this man on the other side, and he smiled, and I smiled at him back. I didn't have any fear. Just began to cross, and the first foot that touched the bridge, which I think was was my left foot actually, I saw the word knife, and again a phrase was thrown into my head, knife, and I thought that's weird. Maybe you're just being silly, like you know, maybe it's late at night, you're tired, and I tried to debunk myself. Even then, I took another step, then I saw the word knife, no word of a lie, in reality, like it was a physical object in front of me, the word knife. I thought, okay, well, and I began to get a bit nervous then as I kind of crossed, and as I looked over, I saw the man still smiling again. I thought, okay, something seems a bit strange. 'Cause he had like a plastic bag with him. He was beginning to walk at a pace. So as he got closer, I kind of braced myself because I felt like something feels a bit wrong here. And I couldn't find my way out of a paper bag really. I have no survival skills at all, but I was willing to give it a go really, like even back then. And I noticed as he came closer to me, I could just about see a sharp, pointy object just sticking out of the tip of the bag. And just as he got closer to me, he went to put his arm into the bag further and pull out what looked like very clearly a knife. And I could see it under the moonlight as well. It was enough to get enough of a shine so I could see exactly the shape of it. By then, I was already ready to go. And for some reason, rather than using my arms, I used my legs. And I kind of kicked my legs forward to shunt him backwards. And I just ran. And I was in an adrenal state, though. So I just kept running. I literally ran all the way from the centre of Oxford to where I lived at home, which is like usually it's like an hour-long walk, though, but I ran in about sort of half an hour. And yeah, I was exhausted by the time I got home. And I think to this day, you know, was it purely coincidence? Was I picking up something from reality? Or was I reading his mind? Could it be a psychic kind of thing? Or something intervening that was so strong and so specific, and it didn't happen to me again for many, many years. And it links into me kind of leaning on this thing more and trusting this thing more. Sometimes it just throws words at me and it points me in the right direction. Like, for example, I wasn't going to publish my book because I wrote my book. Basically, I went through some like confidence training to do my work that I do basically because I'm a very nervous person. As you can understand, like I've seen things in life that I'm told are impossible, but there they are. So I was kind of going through that just to relearn how to speak for professional speaking and everything, and came to a point where I just somehow knew how to write a book. And I know it's going to really annoy some authors out there. I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be that way. But this thing, it seems to just give me an ability, like, now you know how to write. I don't have any professional writing. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I couldn't write to save my life. But there we are. I woke up one day and I had this thing in my head. I had to write the book. So I worked on it for a number of days. I wrote it very quickly. just this whole like account of all the things that happened over the years, and then just I kept building on that story until I finished a few days later, and I thought, great, okay, I'm really glad that I said this now. I feel a bit better that I've told this story. I didn't think anybody would care. I genuinely didn't. I thought, again, I'm not anybody famous. I'm a guy who comes from a poor family from Oxford. I know Oxford has the intonations that we're all posh and rich and all that. There are a lot of people who aren't, who come from very limited means. So that with when you come from Oxford, when you come from a certain background, people tend to turn their nose up at people from a certain background because of the, I hate to say, centuries old tradition. Like, you know, they don't like people being of a certain background, let's just say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad I read the book. And then a friend of mine read it because I'm really close to her with my story. And I said, look, I just wanted you to just see what you think about it. Basically, like, you know, it was really meant to be so she could help me to understand the story, not to publish it or anything. And she said to me, like, she read it, she says, Stan, you idiot, like, you, at least just try once. Just try and see what happens. And I kind of went through the process of prepping my book and still doubting in myself, thinking it's just not going to be good enough. And I thought, okay, well, to keep her happy, I'll just apply to one publisher and I'll just do that, you know. So I researched publishers and found one that I really liked. And so I applied to this publisher called Collective Inc. It's like a big publishing house over here. And I got a message back from my good friend Gavin. He's kind of helped to kind of champion my book. Really great guy, Gavin Davies. I recommend you guys look him up. He's written some amazing stories himself, actually. But yeah, he kind of championed my book. He kind of read it from start to finish in one evening. Amazingly fell in love with it and said, "Look, hey, like I really want to get you on board with us with a full worldwide contract." Like,
wow.
Sometimes you get like vanity offers where you pay a few thousand because they don't trust you, and sometimes it's a bit of a scam too.
Yeah.
But for someone to offer an opportunity to like somebody who nobody knows is quite it's a very good trust exercise. And I was just really shocked that anybody cared enough. And yeah, here I am today with the book out there. And like I say, like facing your own fears and going through your own healings offers opportunities for others to, you know, inspire others to do the same. So I've inspired a number of other people to talk about their experiences and for them to kind of go through their anxiety. Some of them have PTSD, or with me, you know, I have complex PTSD as well as part of that too.
Yeah.
We're all about healing each other, basically. And when you explore the unknown, you realize it's part of it's this unknown because of the parameters that we've been given. And part of it is just down to the fact that, you know, we're too scared to face the unknown. Humans don't like not knowing things.
Exactly.
That's why we give measures to things.
Yeah.
And once we embrace the fact that it's, you know, it's okay to not know. Because quite frankly, on this, you know, could be this story, I could have a different interpretation to this a year later as I gather more information. For example, like I mentioned to you, like it took some time after I revisited the Devil's Backbone. I began to understand this is why I came there. I came to go back to my nonna's house to complete my journey. So the story's unraveled itself over time as I've come to make peace with it. So, you know, I'll stop talking. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
I do have a question. Oh yeah, you had a question about that one topic. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say about the possible connection of because you know what he's saying about you know, like the words, like certain ideas or words that would just kind of come to him, and you know, just things of the sort, or just some different feelings you might get. And I was wondering if you thought that maybe it was connected to, well, really back when everything had kind of happened with the accident, and you mentioned when you met that entity and you kind of got like an overload of information. You know, different things, like, you know, you felt like it was so much that you just really couldn't, you know, you couldn't handle it. You couldn't hold on to it, or not hold on to it. Sorry, but you couldn't handle it all at the moment. And if instead of just being overloaded, I mean, would like be something similar, like, you know, being uploaded to the cloud, that you kind of inadvertently accessed it later without really noticing.
I would say he became the cloud.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. Where compendium, like you mentioned the entity, you mentioned the third one, compendium, I think you said it was called. And
that's the spirit guide.
Yeah, the spirit guide. And if that was in some way connected to even that way back at that point, where you had felt like that upload or that overload of information.
Yeah, I don't have an answer, to be honest with you. I don't want to say anything that, you know, isn't inaccurate. So I can only say,
because you didn't have that. You didn't experience compendium at the time, or he didn't make himself. He or she didn't make himself. You weren't aware of you had a spirit guide at that point in time, correct?
Not initially, no. I mean, I did begin to see compendium, and basically, like, from what I understand of it so far, it likes to come in the form of a wolf, a white wolf or a white dog. And actually, I'll zoom out. Basically, this is a really weird coincidence. My wife will bought me this. I don't know if you can see that, you guys. Anyway,
Oh yeah,
but
I see that.
this is my little compendium, basically, like watching over me now. Anyway, but no, my wife bought it for me a little while ago, and it's absolutely humongous, the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen. I love it. Like me, I suppose. But
That's cool.
But yeah, it's just basically like I've noticed like some connections with it. So yeah, I tend to have sometimes when I have a really challenging time, I have a really vivid dream where I'm speaking to compendium basically, and I just like I'm talking to a wolf basically, but I'm not talking. We're just transferring information. It'll help me to kind of overcome certain challenges in life, and it doesn't always come to me. The spooky thing is Joe, the guy who was the director of the documentary In the Void, as he was editing it, and a strange thing happened to him because he's not a medium or psychic though. And he says, as I was editing the part of the episode where you were talking about the entity out there, I kept for some reason getting an urge to put video clips of a white dog or a white wolf. That's the weirdest thing because I didn't tell him any of that during the recording. During our pre-call or emails, I didn't describe to him what compendium was. He didn't know what compendium was. That's why I told him after. I said, this is really freaking me out because I saw like a preview of the episode and I said, this is really weird. Like you zoom into like the eye of this this white dog, and then you show a wolf later down. Like I just want to let you know, like this is something that's going to come as a consequence of this thing. And like he said, he didn't talk to me for about 2 hours. I think I really freaked him out though, and they eventually kind of talked to me and said, look, so that's really spooky. He says, I'll be honest with you, there's been a few weird things during the editing, like I said, he's worked on like a lot of episodes of the Great British Bake Off anyway, so he's had to deal with like very high level editing, all that kind of stuff. He says, yes, I've seen some weird things and I can't explain them, but I'm beginning to kind of be glad that he said that in a way because I felt like I was kind of going crazy. And it just, yeah, sometimes it comes as that. So yes, to answer your question, like I don't think it was the entity, but it came with my return. So that bad guy, that annoying burnt guy anyway, followed me back and harassed my family. But I think Compendium has been working at the back, trying to just nudge me forward. Like I think especially at the time when, like I said, when I was ready to say, look, I give up. I'm done. I'm not doing this job for you guys anymore. In a way, like I'm done.
Yeah.
And then yeah, something happened to push me forward, thankfully. Yeah, since then it's like even like the most darkest days, my life isn't perfect now anyway, but I'm very lucky to have the life that I have now. But it's just there sometimes, it's just a bit of a nudge. Doing a similar job to what the Sky Doctors did many years ago. So yeah, I would love to speak more about Compendium in my next book, because like what I've actually given in this book is, the book actually isn't a massive book. It could have been much bigger though, but it's so dense full of experiences, though it's quite exhausting if I were to make it 300 pages.
Yeah.
But I've actually split it into 2 books. So the first part is like an introduction to the unknown, like here's a possibility, and it's for believers and non-believers. Present to you what I've seen, the context around it. There's a couple of funny stories in there to kind of break up the intensity though. But there's basically just linking into that is really quickly. There's actually a funny story about a kid that was swallowed by his own school bag. But the reason why it's actually in there in a book to do with ghost stories is it's a metaphor for being overwhelmed with the situation, and once you read it for yourself, it will begin to make sense anyway. But like I said, I'll give you context around to give you a better understanding of what may have happened. But yeah, there's a lot more to this story that I haven't told just yet. And like Paranormality is just the first part of it. And eventually I'm going to go fully, into, a beyond the beyond, kind of situation. So yeah, like I said, so I feel like even now there are some things I can't tell you guys because I think you guys have probably seen so much over the years you've been doing what you've been doing anyway. I don't think too much would surprise you, but I think what I may have to tell you may surprise you. But I have to work out how to verbalize this whole thing. Because like I say, it's a big old download that I've had, and I know it's annoying for you guys to hear, like anyone hearing this, like, well, why don't you remember all the things that he showed you? Like, I don't have the mental, I'm a lot smarter now than I was when I was a kid. But I don't have the mental processor to be able to unzip this file. Like, I'm just beginning to get tidbits and pieces out as time goes by. But I don't think I'll ever really get to the end of this life and have a full understanding of it until, my time comes and I cross and so on. Then I'll be reminded, oh yeah, this is what I really am. This is what it showed me. But I don't have the processor really like within this body to be able to comprehend the infinite.
I wouldn't say it's annoying. I'd probably say it's more it's closer to just interesting. Like I wouldn't, annoying wouldn't be the word. I like, you not being able to tell everything at the time. I wouldn't be annoyed by it. I'd just be more interested, kind of like how you said, like how you are just not able to at the moment.
Yeah. One thing that's incredible is most mediums are saying exactly what you say, Stan. When they first start to go down the realm of understanding their mediumship and their abilities, they figure out that there is a entity that is with them that ends up guiding them through the whole process. Because from what I'm hearing and what a lot of people say, is that that guide is very important. So one, you don't get lost in yourself. Two, when you're dealing with other entities, and especially if you start helping others with this, it's a guide that you truly need so you don't basically either get possessed, get taken over, start losing your mind, all these particular things that occur when you are starting to basically fight between realities, because that's exactly what's occurring. You start to not believe reality from, you know, whether or not you're going into a trance, whether or not you're meditating, you start to lose that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, just the way that things just kind of, plus the way things just kind of be happening to push you towards certain things also. Like I'm not sure if even with the book and different things, as that was going along, if that had even been the first time, or I think you mentioned like you were thinking about, you wanted to write those pages down and, or at least get it out. Like even as a kid when you were drawing and how that would help get certain things as far as the feeling and
So
everything out.
much.
And then even up to now writing this book where I'd actually have to start to wonder if, well, you had there kind of been something that had been there nudging you kind of the entire time, even leading up to this, to having the book going on and just different things that are leading you to places, and you're getting to the point of, I guess, being able to actively listen more. Even if it's just pattern recognition, just seeing something enough times where you're like, okay, I have to do this at this point. Like it keeps on popping up, so I have to jump into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stan, did you feel like writing this book was therapeutic for you? Like it kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like I've described it as gosh, I can just be myself here. It's kind of like spiritual constipation. It'd be the best way to describe it. Basically, once I let it out,
yeah.
I felt like I'm not describing my book as a turd, not intentionally though, but it kind of needed to come out. But it's almost like, can you imagine like a number of years compacted information and knowings and feelings,
Yeah.
and you can't tell those feelings to anybody because your priests don't understand, your family doesn't understand, your friends don't understand, your teachers don't understand. Who on earth do you go to? There's no NHS service available here for people to talk about possessions and hauntings and poltergeists and various different things. Like there's nothing anybody could even begin to touch upon. So you just keep it inside and you keep it inside, you keep it inside just to try and be normal for just a moment, at least put a mask on to make it appear normal. But every now and again, the mask will slip here and there. So letting it out in this book is catharsis. It's like, you guys, like, this is what I've done, this is my output basically. It's for you guys to deal with now. It's like not my problem anymore. Like
Yeah.
all these wonderful minds all across the world, like they can look at it and see, okay, this is a psychological event. You can explain this with current understanding of science, physics specifically. This is a spiritual intervention. This is a paranormal side. This could all just be completely made up by a guy who just wants to make money from people, telling a story. Some people will say that as well, but always think back to the fact that this is a traumatized kid.
Yeah.
A kid wouldn't come back from the other side to do that, because the whole point of me going with this publisher is, as I mentioned, I don't think anybody would take it seriously, quite frankly, and I'm amazed that they did. Me going with a publisher, like, it means my story gets to go further.
Yeah.
And also, kind of continuing with this, is there's a reason why I use my full name on the book, Kieran Stanislaw Mace. I know it's quite hard to remember though, and at least it makes me more unique. Is I take on my granddad's middle name from Poland. My friends call me Stan now anyway, rather than Kieran Mace anyway. It's just, yeah, a preference thing, I suppose, in some way or form. But that's a long story. But I like to bring his name forward there, because part of my book being released is part of letting out my granddad's story. It's not just simply letting my mother's story out in the world, my family's story to, pass on to the world, but my granddad. So my granddad like came from Poland back in the end of the Second World War, and he was a prisoner in the Holocaust. And I want to write a book on his story one day as well, if I'm kind of good enough to do that, basically. So I feel like, in a way, like, me writing the story is not just the trauma of me; it's the kind of what my granddad went through is too. I want to see that, I hate to say, from the concentration camps of Treblinka, his story has passed through time into the modern day, and now is outputting a positive. So in a way, I'm kind of doing it for my granddad too, because he was there starting this, through this vision of my friend, starting this journey, and it's kind of sent me on this path. So I know there's a lot of complex things kind of all kind of, circling this planet, so to speak. But yeah, that's my story really. So like I say, it's not just a book, a random author just releasing a book to entertain people. It's meant to bring meaning and healing and love and kindness. And it's also for people who are skeptics about these kind of things, like, give it a read. And I want it to teach you to be a more understanding. You don't have to believe in these things. That's okay. You can debunk these things. That's all right. Be open enough to learn from people's story. And also, if you're a believer yourself and you speak to skeptics, be respectful of skeptics and listen to them too. Let's open the conversation and stop supporting these barriers within the paranormal itself. So like I said, it's more of like an invitation too as well. So it's like, yeah, like I say, it's honoring the memory of my family, the trauma of that me and my mum suffered through this experience, but also to give hope, really, hope and education as people maybe could start their own journey into the paranormal and be open to the strange and the unknown. Overcome the strange darkness, as your radio show is.
You are not going
titled.
Crazy, because
and that's it. Yeah,
know,
exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit silly sometimes. I say silly things as I'm learning, but at the end of the day, I know at this point now I'm not crazy. I've seen these things. But coming from a base of knowledge, like I say, I grew up in Oxford, so I grew up, knowing Oxford University, and it's a place of academia and knowledge. Like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit was written here by Tolkien. Alice in Wonderland was written here by Lewis Carroll. So many different interesting stories have come from here that are works of fiction. So many different books are written here that are works of knowledge and knowing within our current parameters. But there's a dark underbelly to Oxford that people don't understand. Like, amongst all the beauty of the Dreaming Spires, is there is an energy in this place that I can't fully explain. And I do feel like this is one of those many stories that have, maybe are being released into the world, I suppose. I do hope it might inspire other people who have experienced very strange things in Oxford. For example, if you guys have Uncanny in the US, I recommend that you guys watch it, Uncanny, from the BBC. There's one episode called The Oxford Exorcism, which coincidentally takes place at the other end of the Devil's Backbone, a very short distance away from where I had my very strange experience.
Amy?
So, like I said, there's something going on in Oxford. It's a case for the Ghostbusters, that's for sure. Go get her, Ray.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Stan, this has been an incredible episode. Way to come back for our first show. Great, amazing. Please let our audience and YouTubers know where they can find your videos and your podcast and just all the information about you and your book.
Yeah, of course. So what I'll do with you guys, I'll share a link. So if your viewers want to ask questions to me directly, I'm happy to answer them as honestly as I can. Anyone's welcome to believe, not believe. But yeah, in terms of like my book, Paranormality, Normalising the Paranormal, again, I'll share a link with you guys, but it's available on Amazon. You can actually order it from Target as well, and Walmart, which amazes me. And I feel really proud that I made it that way. But yeah, basically, if you just search Paranormality, Kieran Mace, it'll come up on there. It has like a little duck on the cover, and there's a reason why there's a duck on the cover as well. But yeah, so that's available now. You get print and ebook versions. Also have a podcast called Paranormal Perspectives. Anyone's available to join it. It's free to watch for anybody. It always will be free, and it's just an opportunity for people out there tell their story, go through the learnings, teach other people, and be in a place of no judgment. You're here just to tell your story, be yourself, teach me a bit of new things. Maybe I'll teach you some of my things that I've learned. We're all about growth and healing and all that la-di-da. But like I say, keep an eye out for the duck on my cover. It all links into where I come from, Oxford, because we always say when we meet each other in the morning is "morning my duck." We always call each other my duck over here. So it's a little Easter egg to Oxford itself on the cover there for my original home. So yeah, and thank you guys so much for the opportunity, and it's such a pleasure to speak to you.
No, thank you, definitely. Amy, anything last?
Yeah, just one last thing I wanted to say. Aside from your incredible story and experiences, and I believe every single word, I also wanted to point out you just seem like an inherently good person. Like the way you the way you talk about your mother, and you didn't want to stress her out, showing your appreciation for single parents, and the shout out to your childhood pet. Like that really like just drew me into the story even more. So I just want to say, like, you just seem like the type of person that just draws people in, and they want to get to know you and talk to you. So the only thing that is not normal is just how kind and positive you seem, which is very rare to find with a lot of people today. So just want to say I really appreciate this interview, and I'm enjoying your book. So
Thank you so much. No, that means the world to me. Thank you so much. I can be a grumpy guy sometimes. There's no doubt that I do have bad days, but ultimately, again, going from my granddad's attitude, he came out of the camps and he saw some of the most awful things mankind have ever seen. He came back with a positive attitude. He had PTSD. He had a lot to go through, but he just kept going. And there's always a way to bounce out of the darkness and form your own light. Like I said, like my life will never be as bad compared to his.
Yeah.
But he always reminds me, like, there's always a way where even in the most darkest areas where you meet the most darkest entities, light will overpower if you have it and you have the good intentions. So that's what I try to do. I just hope it helps other people, me being here.
I'm sure it does. Absolutely.
Bless you.
All right, Kyler, anything for Stan on the way out?
No, I mean, not too much. I think I pretty much have asked most of the questions I kind of felt popped out the most. I mean, I would say, I mean, it is good, like kind of like to piggyback on what Amy said, even just you going ahead and, putting the word out there, putting out a book, even for just the relation part of it, because like you had mentioned earlier, a lot of people actually can and will benefit from even hearing something like that, because a lot of folks have gone through similar experiences, or they see certain things and they didn't want to talk about it, but it opens up a space for them to even be able to speak on it, and yeah, it's dope.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that is it. We're out.
When the world grows quiet and the questions grow louder, there's a place where the unexplained is taken seriously. Strange Darkness Radio. Real encounters, unfiltered conversations, stories that live just beyond the edge of understanding. From shadow figures to hidden histories, to voices that refuse to be forgotten. This is not speculation, this is exploration. Strange Darkness Radio. Streaming now. Strange Darkness Radio. Streams. Darkness Radio. When the world grows quiet and the questions grow louder, stay curious. Stay curious. Real encounters unfit for conversations, stories that may just beyond the edge of understanding. From shadow figures to hidden histories, to voices that refuse to be forgotten. This is not speculation, this is exploration.